That's small and no surprise. NASA's, I do think, has justifiably dropped in priority for the other teams, but it is something that Showmaker pulled out first and definitely loves to play. So yeah, too big of a surprise in that regard. This has to be a Rumble ban, one would imagine. Normally, leaving Maokai open seems like it is a little bit crazy, but so they're gonna pick Rumble.
God.
And the trade is.
Please. You're not allowed to do that.
Well, you get Ziggs. You get Maokai Ziggs, right?
It doesn't matter.
I don't know. I think Maokai Ziggs, I mean, it's a gamble that they're taking.
True. I mean, yeah.
I don't envy Kingen. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to have a very good time.
Yeah, I'm hamming it up a bit because, you know, Rumble is extremely overpowered. He was the permaban. But if you're going to leave him open, as Chronicler's mentioning, you got to get something for it. And they are going to get something for it. They get the Ziggs and the Corki. They are going to give up the Rumble, which I would say is, you know, now you have Rumble Maokai on the table. But and maybe even a Blitzcrank.
Does Owner want to play Maokai? And that's the funniest part, is I think both these junglers look the best when they're on aggressive picks.
Yeah.
And they're both like, oh... Yeah, Yone Maokai would be...
You go like Yone Sejuani if you really didn't want to play.
That would be the owner. That would be the owner special. I think the Sejuani into Maokai matchup is really rough, but Lucid has been fine on Maokai. Like compared to Spring, it's obviously a huge glow up, but it's still not where I think it needs to be to get full value out of the champion. But Sejuani, it works really well with what Owner likes to play. You have double melee flank, a lot of power. This would be quite a different look, really leaning heavily into the wombo combo. I do think, though, MF into Ziggs, we've not seen that work out, because either you get lane swapped against, or you can just neutralize the lane with the Ziggs. And a lot of the value that MF generates does come from that. And I imagine Lilia and or Maokai are going to get picked or banned, right? And if you pick Maokai here, you ban Lilia, I think DK are going to be feeling pretty good about the draft thus far, outside of that Rumble matchup, and we'll see what Kingen can find to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways. I feel like, you know, he is the most powerful pick on the patch, but there are ways to try to handle it.
Rumble as a free-man unit, the amount of setup that you'll have for the Yone is kind of crazy. At least the Sejuani's taken away, which is something that we did really want to see.
I wonder how Moham's Blitzcrank is looking too. I mean, like you mentioned, I think Leona probably just got the go-to. It's left available. A lot of top lane and jungle bans.
Good into MF as well.
It's good into MF. You know, it just feels like the go-to, but we've seen a lot of Maokai and Blitzcrank. Thought it deserved a mention, but Leona does feel like the go-to pick here. And so Moham, we've seen a lot of this alongside of Israel.
Lilia Braum? Maybe it's kind of what I'm looking towards. The downside, obviously, of the Braum is that really good into Leona, but it does take away from the engage potential. Rel's the more offensively oriented choice, or it's Alistar. Really, I know Keria has been pretty happy to lean into more creative picks, but we'll see. That would definitely do it as the Nocturne comes through here. Definitely something that Owner has played a ton of before. And they are really leaning into just full-on dive. And there's the Bard as well. Keria, without a shadow of a doubt, I imagine, going to be playing his own skin on that one. What is Kingen going to pick here into this amount of dive and backline threat? Just counter dive?
Yeah, I mean, with Camille instead, maybe thinking about the Vladimir. It's a lot of AP, but certainly could do a number to a lot of guys that are wanting to clump up onto your Ziggs or Corki. So they're just going to go for the Camille, which, you know, we've seen a lot alongside of the Ziggs as well.
The Vladimir with WMAX has actually, and Grass has actually been really picked up by a lot of players, including outside of the Rumble. I'm like, it feels more like T1 was the one on red side. Like, this is not what you would expect from a blue side draft. Very aggressive, very into T1 style. But I think D+ their comp looks a lot easier, looks a lot more straightforward. We'll see if that's enough to get them a winner in game one.
I agree with you, Chronicler. I think D+ Kia came into this first game very prepared, and we'll see if it works out for them on the Rift. As we're ready, let's hop onto it for game one. Alrighty, here we go. Game number one to decide who is going to be our third seed into Worlds from the LCK. I would say that most people believe that T1, the favorites, should go on.
For sure.
But we'll see how it goes here in Game 1. Could certainly turn the tides. You know, How Life Esports got that upset win in Game 1 in a game that did not look winnable. I was watching that from the audience. I was like, no, there's no way this Molder's too far ahead. And then they just proved us all wrong. So we'll see if DK can, you know, as the underdogs come in here and get a big win up against T1, as they are going to start off with a lane swap, unsurprisingly.
Do have, right from the get-go, there we go, I was about to say, Carrier playing his own skin, and also Moham playing the barrel skin. With the old logo, we have lane swap coming through here, so aiming will be playing towards the top half of the map. I think getting the Camille to like past the first few levels is going to make a big difference, and Ziggs does kind of, as we've talked about many times with his passive, mitigate some of the guaranteed plate loss that you're going to have, which means that we will just have 2v2 laning in mid. Showmaker going for the Conqueror, which you've seen more and more on Corki. As Corki, I feel like, has kind of, in many ways, taken the role that Tristana used to, where you're playing something that is both oppressive early in lane and then scales into a really strong mid to late game carry. Obviously, Tristana better at taking turrets. And Corki, I think, especially in his current form, a little bit harder to deal with in the lane. No big surprises as of right now.
Yeah. Another part of the draft from the side of DK was banning the Tristana in the first round of bans, also the Azir. So that was 2 targeted bans towards Faker, and they take the Corki away because they know that Rumble has to be the first pick. So that really does kind of, you know, Faker, who has been struggling a bit with champion pool issues, really kind of chunks it down to, okay, well, he's going to play Yone, or we're not really sure, right? Maybe like an Nasus if they didn't ban it. So definitely something that is part of the strategy here for DK to get Faker onto Yone, and we'll see how he does prepare, or rather play in this game, as we are going to have a couple of TPs coming in from D plus Kia as they look to end the lane swap here and pick up this big wave.
This is always a bit of a risky move, and I think DK did the right precautions, right? Making sure that Moham's there, also having King in, but that TP is going to cost them pretty heavily. We'll see if they can get the interrupt. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Now, the upside is that Zeus TP'd to the wave from the brush, so I think King should be able to catch most of it, and there's obviously not really a dive opportunity. Pre-6, Nocturne dive. Generally not going to be too threatening, and Owner is on the opposite side of the map. This is going to be like 3-4 minions lost, and Zeus will get a free back off, so it is still, in that regard, a pretty decent win, but DK, going into the lane swap, knew that they were going to fall behind slightly in gold, but you got through the early levels for your Camille, and then you also... yeah.
Yeah, he went up there for a melee minion, and he didn't even get it. Now he's going to get it, but that's going to be Faker's flash now gone.
And that's with a Maokai on the enemy team, right? If he doesn't get a W up, like Lucid can look for something here if they want to risk it, as long as the Q3 is not available. We'll see if they actually want to commit. Showmaker doesn't have that much damage yet, but as I was saying, I do think Faker on the Yone hasn't really had the impact we've seen from the other Yones. Obviously, we did come just off of a Chovy and Zeka match, who, as far as Yones go, are both pretty good. But it's interesting to see. Showmaker, I think, has been by far the most important member on this roster, where he, to me, is the single biggest indicator of DK winning or not. Like, if Showmaker's having a good game, if he's able to maintain parity levels in farm, if he's able to make plays on the map, DK just look completely different from the team that Maroras do. I know what we also have the aiming go kill, but Ziggs, as strong as he is, I think quite that is all.
Yeah, Goodman in a lot of trouble here. He does have the magical journey, but following is Moham, and guess who's here? It's Lucid. The jump scare from the jungle. It will be Moham who does pick up the first blood. Guma not even bothering to use his flash, but that is a fantastic start for this bottom lane of DK.
Very nicely set up there. If Guma would have gone for the cleanse flash instantly, could have survived that, but the moment he got knocked back, wasn't really going to be a way for him to live with Lucid in the position that he was in. This is one of the big pieces of criticism that has often been levied towards Lucid on his non-AD junglers, right? Early impact, actually making something happen on the map. And all set up by Moham. Good look here early on for the DK bot lane.
Yeah. Taking a look at the top lane, we did mention multiple times that if you are going to go for this gambit and give over the Rumble, that Kingan's not going to have a fun time. I think he knew it. They saved R5 quote-unquote counterpick for him. I mean, it was counterpick basically because he picked it after the Rumble, but Rumble doesn't really have any counters, so good luck. But he picks the Camille. It does very well with the team. It can frontline, it can set up the Ziggs, and you have a lot of threat in the late game. You have a lot of pick potential in your composition as well. And so I like the pick at the end of the day. He doesn't have to farm too much in order to be a big threat later on. He is still Camille, and he can still press his R button. And now they've gone for what looks to be like another swap. Aiming's just in the top lane. And the bottom lane is free for Guma to just hit with 3 grubs.
Yeah, not too sure about that one. We go back to happier times here for DK again. Set up, Moham just hits level 4, gets the E, and then that cleanse unfortunately does not do a whole lot. And then here, even with the stun, Lucid with the flash ensures that you lock him down. The kill goes over to Moham, which isn't ideal, but still going to be very happy with that as it takes Guma out of the equation, which is also why he is behind Guma in CS. As we might have another 3v3 here. Faker is on his way.
Kingan getting in there as well, and he's going to take a bunch of damage. Avoids the fear by flashing, but it doesn't seem like that's what DK wanted to go for. Looks like they didn't have a lot of vision to know exactly how many people were there. But yeah, they try to punish. It does not work out. It's going to get the flash out of Kingan already.
And Camille Flash, obviously good offensively. I think she is one of the champions that will have a lot of safety. What is bigger, though, is that these waves are getting continuously dropped by DK. Like, T1 is the one that is continuously, and as a result now, even though they're behind at first blood, ends up being up in gold, is because they just keep getting these waves shoved into turrets. No one on DK can catch them, so they catch a plate here, half the wave there, half the wave here. And it's led to the situation where even though DK should be heading gold, as of right now they are not. Whereas T1, I feel like with the timings again, Zeus is going to catch this wave just as it comes up to the turret. We'll have to see. Now, level 6 spikes are obviously absolutely monstrous here for T1. And I imagine that DK wants to try and refrain from fighting for objectives in a 5v5 unless you are fully set up with everyone there, because of the mobility on T1, the ability to turn off the vision very, very easily, and the amount of dive that's there.
It's an interesting highlight on the XE as King is just going to hookshot away, but yeah, that's Rumble. Owner is here as well, probably just highlighting the fact that Owner is above level 6, and this is where you want your Nocturne to be, right? As they are looking for a play here on a Moham, the Eclipse is up. He's also just going to flash. A lot of very safe flashing in this game. Faker did it. We saw Moham did it. I mean, Faker's probably going to die, so he had to do it. Here comes an Equalizer. As Kingan continuously getting pushed out. Keria and Owner here. But we got Moham and Lucid here as well. Lucid just waiting.
Guma's on his way.
His ult out if they do decide to go for the dive. Here comes the Nocturne, avoided with the Camille ult and the Maokai ult coming out as well. Looking for Owner. That's a ton of damage over the top from the Ziggs. Owner in a lot of trouble. Will avoid a bunch of the early damage, but eventually does go down. Zeus getting pretty low himself, and the counter dive comes out. The cleanse here from Guma, but the follow-up from Lucid, and they're gonna get Zeus as well, but the stun comes in. Lucid and Moham super low, but there's nothing that T1 can do about it.
And these are the types of fights that I don't think DK normally should be able to win this early on. T1 attempts to set up a dive with full knowledge in front of DK, and this is a Camille, like even without flash, she has so much built-in escapes with the E, with the ultimate, and the reality is, like, your CC is pretty lackluster, right? Outside of a Bard Binding or a Fear, you don't really have that much going on, and they overchase. Aiming immediately gets the TP in, is able to assist, and then the extended fight here from DK, with Lucid still being very healthy. And I thought this Bard Binding maybe was going to turn it. If Guma picks up a double here, then you could be like, okay, fair enough, you know, a bit of an overchase. But instead, colossal win for DK. Made even funnier by the fact that they still are barely ahead in gold. I imagine because of the fact that when aiming TP'd, Faker was just getting the plate. So by the end of it, T1 still have the gold lead.
Yeah, it's almost like they have kind of stumbled into gold leads in this game, and I would say that is mostly due to DK's macro not exactly being clean. So
it really isn't, Valdez.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a little bit nice, but yeah, it's kind of obvious in the beginning of this first game, as kind of everywhere, but that's fine. You know, at the end of the day, it's still a relatively early game, but T1 kind of get out scot-free, and they will get the first Drake on top of it. Cloud, and then Ocean up next.
Also have aiming going for the tier and the early Seraphs, and let's be fair,
yeah,
going for Archangels in this scenario is pretty okay. Trying to stay alive desperately. And they have Locket as well. And we saw actually the value of that Locket in the previous fight from Lucid. Ended up being a pretty big difference maker, I do think, in keeping those very low health bars for DK alive. Yeah, what's going to spawn in 2 minutes? Very late Drakes, also outside of Chemtech, a lot of high value Drakes. And DK, in my opinion, any fights that they're winning before they have access to Triforce, like, you're going to be super happy about, right? Like, both Showmaker and King are going to spike insanely hard once that item is available. We'll have to see if that can finally get them the gold lead that they have been looking for in these fights.
They've been trying very hard to get the gold lead in this game. They have a Ziggs, and they have managed to take 2 plates total. There is still a minute and a half, so a chance for aiming to get more, but it doesn't really look like T1 are leaving these plates very open either, so at the end of the day, feels like you have a Ziggs. He's going to be delayed on his damage because he has to build defensively. He's also not getting the early gold because, well, they kind of just dropped the ball on that. So they're not getting the early plates. The Ziggs eventually will still be a big threat in this game, especially with the Camille and the Maokai.
Oh.
But not quite what you were looking for.
That's a lot of people. King might have to flash again.
Trying to bait him in is Zeus. And yeah, nice dodge on the Bard ult, but here comes the Nocturne. Very difficult to get away from this one. The Fear is coming in, but he does avoid a little bit of the damage, but not the Fear, and now the Equalizer will come down, and Kingen is just dead. DK not able to turn this, and T1, they've got everybody in this one as Baker comes over. A double kill for the Rumble, and now Zeus is off to the races.
Attempt to turn there for DK ends up backfiring immensely, as the heavy investment of resources on T1 is going to get them 2 kills. Both Kingen and Moam end up going down. Showmaker will be able to get like a plate or 2, but not really what you're going to be looking for. And the worst case scenario is that the kills went over to the Rumble. Like, the kill that Kingen got earlier actually kind of was, you know, eventually Camille's going to become a really big sideline threat. You'll have enough resistances, enough bulk that you can maybe look for a 1v1. Now, not so much. Zeus is going to go back and turn into a very scary toaster. The only upside for DK is that they're probably going to be able to turn this into Herald, as it was a very heavy investment towards the bot side of the map from T1.
Yeah, and that can still be very useful with your Ziggs. You know, you throw that in. King in a lot of trouble here. He is not going to respect the lack of vision, and he just gets punched to death by the Rumble. 3 kills already for Zeus. And we talked about this top lane matchup. Moham now in a bit of trouble. Faker keeping him around. Peria wants to do so as well. Here comes Owner. Not having the paranoia, but he's just going to flash on in as, oh, so low is Moham, but the block-in comes in. It doesn't matter. The Q will land the final blow. And that is another kill on the board here for T1.
And a lot of this snowballs as well from the fact that you get the kill in bot side. That means that DK is going to have to play a lot more respectful, as we are still attempting a catch here. Lucid has ult, but I don't know what they can do.
Right. He's going to land the stun here on Zeus, who is in a lot of trouble, actually. That's a big shutdown that just got given over to Showmaker. At the end of the day, a lot of TPs and map movements that do get used to the topside aiming. Has to TP into mid. Oh, the satchel! And Guma has to flash, and he's trying to turn it here onto aiming, but he's not quite able to. Heal comes in from the Bard, as Guma will use that speed boost to just run away with the Strup. But man, that was getting spicy.
It's a chaotic game, Valdez. There's a lot of stuff happening, and it's over forces on either side. Should be able to get this turret with the satchel, as there it goes. No plates, but still, mid lane turret is always going to feel like a big win, as Kingen is still with Camille. So, like, despite the fact that his life has been very unfortunate. You can still do stuff like this.
Yeah, he's just going to throw an ult in, and you can't get out of that one as Kingen, he does get very, very low, but he did his job, and there's not much that Carrier can do up here on the top side. So a turret, a couple of turrets go to DK, and you know what? They finally get that gold lead they were looking for. It looks like they should lose the second dragon, but at least they're kind of in the driver's seat for now.
What happened here?
Oh. Yeah.
They, you know when they took out the being able to hook
like
the
six
Scuttlecraft
years ago?
After like 2018 was all Camille jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know about that one, King. Well, I do know it was that though. No. Very big mistake.
I mean, if he has vision, he knows 100%.
Well, then if Rumble is in another lane.
Okay, sure.
But like even then, like it's a big cooldown. It's a lot of what allows you to be in the sideline in the first place. Anyway, big mistake from Kingen. Immediately kind of course corrected by DK as they're able to get a really nice catch towards the top side of the map. And Kingen also showcasing again that I do think that even though obviously the laning phase was a bit of a disaster, the Camille will always have value because you have Ziggs, Maokai, and Corki. As they'll still be able to get it. So well, someone has to catch this top wave. We'll see if anyone is going to be able to. Faker has just been pushing uncontested.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for him to stop. They did show a lot of people down on bottom side. He is going to stop now just to do grubs. And Guma's going to get hit by the satchel again. And this time he doesn't have flash. He's in a lot of trouble. The magical journey will not save him. That is another shutdown given over to DK. This time it's given to the Ziggs, who is casually 2-0-3.
And with MF, if you have your BT... Oh, possible collapse.
Yeah, they're trying to turn actually onto Zeus. That's a ton of damage. He has to flash away, but now trying to get on top of aiming, who is left all alone. He satchels over the wall. It's beautiful, but that is a Yone who can do even better than the Ziggs can.
Kingen's on the way.
Trying to turn here on a Faker. There's the Solar Flare. They should be able to trade this one back. Lucid tanking up a ton. He gets the root. He flashes away. He lives. It's a double kill for Showmaker. And just incredible back and forth action in this first game.
It is a complete back and forth here, Valdez. And in the end, it's DK that gets the better hand of T1 in the consecutive series of fights. 5-0 for Showmaker.
All right.
And it starts off with, again,
this can't happen 4 times.
Guma, like you can feel impervious with the map because with BT you're so tanky. But that can't, as you're saying, that can't happen twice. Like, you need to be more respectful of the Ziggs. And then here we see immediately a lot of damage comes down. Zeus ends up getting taken out of the fight right from the get-go. And then aiming, yes, he ends up going down, but flashes the ultimate, gets the satchel over the wall, buys so much time. And then here, I know it's just Maokai, but that doesn't matter. He's able to stall for Kingen to arrive. Showmaker and the gang dispatch of him. Lucid with the flash stays alive. And yes, mid lane turret ends up going down, but I think DK are going to take that trade anytime. And now we see, I haven't talked about it yet, the Mountain Soul is going to come through. And if you are playing the dive composition in this equation, you need to keep stacking those dragons. And with the gold lead, I don't think DK is going to let you get more of those for free. It's now Showmaker's CS numbers have been one of the big things. A lot of it is obviously the way that DK play, right? The fact that they give a lot of the resources to aiming. But him being up 50 CS, that's significant. That is a Corki that is only going to get stronger from here on out, is going to hit his 2-item power spike very soon. I think DK, as long as they can manage this next fight with, again, a very clean Maokai performance thus far, they should be able to, if they can get the setup, things are looking up for them.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned setup. They have that. They have that in spades, right? They've got a lot. They've got Maokai Leona. They have the Camille. And there are just a lot of ways to set up Corki and Ziggs for success, which is why when we came into this game, you said it very well, Chronicler. You're like, this looks like a red side draft from T1 because they kind of gave so much over to DK, and it's very aggressive. It feels a bit risky. Here comes Lucid, who is very tanky, so that doesn't really do much. He does have to throw out his Nature's Grasp.
That's a big win.
Yeah.
Obviously, DK can choose to give this up. It's only Soul Point, but still, I think Soul Point, particularly against a team that's as happy to pull the trigger on Baron, like T1, is still a big risk. Kingen, unfortunately, is Camille, and the recent Camille builds that we've seen obviously go for Starek second, which means that you don't have the pushing power that you used to back when. Just go for Tiamat. His spell shield, but it's going to get McKills there by Keria, just to make sure. And now I think T1 actually should be feeling pretty good. That is no ult on Lucid, although we are halfway through that being available. No ult on Moham, and Zeus does have the TP. They have lost control though, and one of the big things that we mentioned is like you need vision. You need a way to get onto the enemy backline and dive them. As a
they're
okay,
doing
I guess
Baron. They're just gonna go do Baron, but there's vision on the Baron, so they're gonna clear that out, and they're gonna maybe start it here in a little bit.
Well, they have to, right?
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it looks like a pull-off of the Dragon. A lot of damage onto this Baron already. T1, they just say, okay, we're going to set up the T1 Baron, but Magical Journey comes over. They are going to get out of the pit.
So they did get the TP out of Showmaker, but I feel like they could have stayed on it a little bit longer, especially with Bard. The ability to make an escape is a lot easier than otherwise it would be. Yeah, I think they have to stick around here. They have to continuously look for this, right? Crucially, though, Showmaker is still sticking around, and Aiming does have TP. Or rather, Showmaker went for a back, has his rapid fire
vision.
They don't have vision right now, and you got to know this is happening. Lucid, I don't think is going to make it here in time. And they've realized now, but I think it's too late.
Yeah, Aiming just going to turn back around, and especially with the Paranoia, you don't have any chance of making it into the pit. T1, they take the Baron. Not even necessarily a sneak. They shouted it to the sky. They were like, we are doing the Baron. We are going to take it, deny all the vision. And DK were like, oh, it should be fine. We can take this Dragon. But no, T1 just going to take it down. And DK, yes, they get one Mountain Drake, but this feels very good for T1.
DK's macro, unfortunately, strikes again with that one, Valdez.
This hasn't been the cleanest game of League of Legends from either side.
No, it hasn't been, but one team is sitting on Baron and the other isn't, so I still think they're going to be feeling good. Oh, the wave flare obviously is great here for DK. Outside of the Camille, you have Corki and the Ziggs, so in that way, I do think you're going to feel fine. I also don't know how much T1 is actually going to get out of this, because their siege is not great. Like, their effective range is so small that unless you're actually diving the turret, which again, I think DK should be very tough with the amount of defensive tools that they have. But it is going to buy you map control with this Rebel Baron power play for at least the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's like the Baron is good, of course. You know, you get a lot of it, you get the gold, you're feeling good, but also it doesn't feel like this is a composition that can use it the best. I feel like if they were like 3, 4, 5,000 gold ahead, then you can really use it for pressure and you can get some really significant dives off, as they're trying to get Aiming here. See if this works out, and now he's just gonna get a little bit of help from Moham and be totally fine. As Faker takes a lot of damage here, Kingen alone on the top side. Here comes Moham to try to save him in the Magical Journey just to get them out of there. And that dive, that mini dive from T1, not going to be too successful. And they're just gonna have to back away, even though they still do have that Baron buff.
When the Baron doesn't even get your red buff on the enemy team, you're not going to be feeling too hot. It's, again, I think one of the big issues that this T1 comp has is that to actually siege turrets, you need to fully commit, because the longest range that you have is a map. Outside of that, your turret taking potential just stands or falls with you getting a dive. And it looks like they're actually not going to be able to get anything out of this Baron. Well, they're able to take away the objective, right? They're still able to trade, and the game is going to basically be even. But I'm always going to be favoring DK's comp when it gets so late, just because of it's so straightforward.
Especially because Cloud Drakes really help, or rather, Mountain Drakes really help against T1's comp. So at the end of the day, when we first looked at it, it looks like the Baron was better, but at the end of the day, getting the one Mountain Drake, sitting back, not falling too far behind in terms of gold.
It is a DK.
Is that better?
So it might just end up going to like 45 minutes nonetheless. In which case, getting the Mountain Drakes is probably worth. I don't know, Velvis. This game is... it's a little silly.
It is. And, you know, you take a look at the itemization here from Aiming once again. He goes for the arm guard. makes a lot of sense because you're gonna get ulted by Bard. You're going to get dove by Yone. You're going to be taking a ton of damage. Obviously, Paranoia is the big one. The Nocturne's going to be aiming for you and you alone. Maybe the Corki at times. So the arm guard's big, and it looks like he might even finish the Zhonya's. But it does mean that he's not building as much damage as you possibly could, which means that for this mid to late game, you're not going to be doing Bomba damage. But if we do go late game, then the Ziggs will just live forever as he has a Maokai and tons of peel and 6 items.
Also want to highlight, I observed doing a good job of that, and a big thing of why I think aiming can also afford to go for this build, more so than you otherwise would, is that Kingen is actually like close to item parity. He's sitting on 2 items, has a Sterex, he's actually ahead in levels despite everything that happened early, and eventually this Camille is going to be a massive nuisance as a... That is a very cute back animation. And not a whole lot is happening on the map. Now, though, we are going to get the dragon. And again, this time there are a good amount of wards. I think there's flank wards absolutely necessary. We need to get like a big flank from Faker or Zeus where they get backline access combined with Owner's ultimate. Because otherwise, if DK can just front to back, have aiming very far in the back, and then Lucid presses are, Kingen can lock anyone down really with his ultimate, and then aiming just throws a bomb on top. And there's not a whole lot that T1 can do unless they immediately take out Showmaker and or aiming at the beginning of a fight.
Yeah. There's a nice teleport ward behind them, but guess what? It just got cleared out by the, what's that, the Void Scuttle.
Thank you, Krabby.
And that's very powerful for getting position around the objective and denying flank teleports. We've seen a lot less of that.
Yeah.
In recent times in League of Legends, once that was added. And especially as teams just get better and better about clearing all the wards. So you don't have the flank ward. T1 are just going to have to go straight up here as, not the Blast Cone to save you as it is going to knock out Kingen. But now Faker's 1v1. They're trying to collapse here onto Kingen with the Paranoia, but he gets away from the fear. Should be okay, but the equalizer's pretty huge. The flash away from Faker, who is now in a bit of trouble. Everybody gonna get rooted down as there is no more Yone, and a massive Jinx bomb over the top is gonna push T1 away. It's not a clean fight. Nothing in this game has been clean, as a lot of members here on the side of DK are also quite low, but they're gonna stick onto the Baron, or rather the Dragon anyway.
Owner has flash. This might as well carry up. We'll see if they can able to contest this.
Oh, they're trying to take the fight here. RDK. Oh, the satchel to deny the magical journey. He's not able to get away. And Owner, I mean, he still could sacrifice his life to try to get in there. Oh, no, it's it goes to MF as they're not able to check all the boxes. And without their jungler, Guma just steals away the dragon.
I knew Guma was good at stealing objectives, but with a map, that's something else. And this is so funny because you can't blast going out yourself, but you can't blast going out to Camille. So with him leaving the X-Tech ultimatum, Keria is able to stay alive. And even though they don't actually kill Kingen, I do think a lot of his damage is what ends up being missing here, and is why we do see that T1 is still able to substantially trade, and crucially they got Lucid. I think Lucid tried to hold his flash a little bit too long. If he flashes earlier, they should just be able to secure this. And then we take another look, as you highlighted already, Valdez. Beautifully done there on the satchel. And then with Kingen TPing in, you're like, okay, well this is definitely gone. But he doesn't actually go for the hook shot connect, which means that Guma just gets the ult with impunity. And now it's soul point for T1, despite everything that happened.
They get soul points. Now, there is a big issue on the enemy team. It is Showmaker with 7 kills.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, he's got to really show up for DK to play, play well and find wins as a team. Seems like he has shown up, and he also went for an arm guard. He used all of that extra money, and he said, you know what, arm guard's pretty good. And I just think about stopwatch and the fact that that was in the game for so long.
I know. Isn't it fun?
It's so funny. It's so strong, stasis. And now DK, they're just gonna we're gonna group up in top and just push.
Get the inner.
Yeah.
Okay, and T1 is kind of calling their bluff and looking to push on mid.
Keria almost, no, he's just actually dead, not almost. He is just dead.
They gotta start Nash.
8-0.
Like, especially with the positions that they got right now, like, Guma is gonna get the mid inner, And Owner is still here, so steal is a possibility, but so much of their setup does come from this Bard.
They don't see Camille. They don't know where he is. They have a suspicion. And the setup, as you mentioned, it's just the turn from the side of DK. They try to get in, but the arm guard is there for Showmaker. And this fight, a massive ult comes in from Faker. And he's just going to get super low, as will Owner. Owner barely getting away. But at the end of the day, T1, they stop the Baron take. And the turn is, again, not very clean. King looking for more, and he will actually take down Owner. And that is pretty huge to take out the jungler.
That alone might actually be enough for them to get the Dragon, right? Or the Baron, right? There'll be a 10-second window where we can TP in the Ziggs. As we take a look at this play, Carrier just straight up underestimated. This is a level 17 7-0 Corki. Can't just walk up like that. And it ends up being the turn here that is, I think, what ends up saving the game, right? Very nice stopwatch, but then Faker, crucially, this time does get aiming as well as the Corki. There is enough damage. They still don't win the fight decisively, and as it, again, turns out, Kingen is able to get this crucial pick. But if they don't land that two-man ultimate, that's going to be the end. I just don't think it's enough, because again, Owner is just about to get to life, and everyone on DK is on this Baron.
Oh, they're going to delay it, though. They might be, oh no, just the dragon, or rather the damage is just way too much, and now here comes the combo. The turn comes in on Aguma. It's not very clean. They should just take the Baron, as they finally do take it down. In goes Owner, but he's okay. Now Showmaker doesn't have a flash. He's being burned down quite a bit here. They're looking to turn as there goes Faker into the backline, takes out Showmaker. And an angle here for Guma, pretty good. Moana probably going to go down, and that he does. And DK, they get away with only 2 Baron buffs.
Can really feel the pressure in this one, Valdez.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tragic, because that field flash actually ends up killing Showmaker, because he's forced to just walk over the entirety of a Rumble ultimate. Ends up going down. Both Kingen and Moam end up flashing and then just kind of die. And now DK have a negative Rebel Baron power play. So this was all great. This is lovely. You know, Carry obviously is going to attempt to stall. Then Kingen goes in, because he doesn't want Guma to steal out again. I think the E was okay, but you can just E into the wall and leave that be.
And that thing's stealing the Baron against Smite.
Well, no, I know. And then here...
Yeah.
If he flashes over that wall, they can't chase. Like, Showmaker's healthy enough.
Mountain Soul on the cards.
Yeah, they're gonna get it.
Just gonna get it for free. There's nothing that Lucy can do, even though he approaches the dragon. It's Mountain Soul for the dive teams, and now you've got that extra little boost of survivability as you're going deep on some of these dives, and most importantly, you denied it from DK.
It's an elder flip game, Pel. That's like
it just has to be.
We have just been missing the obvious truth that this is just a Challengers
It's just
game.
Challengers.
It's just Challengers, baby. I don't know why it took me this long to figure out. Is DK still have a minute left?
Yes, our regional qualifiers first match. It's just Challengers. So they still have Baron, and they're trying to get the inhibitor. They're going to get it. Unless T1... No, it's gone. Okay. That is Ziggs.
And so, on the flip side, I think if DK got Mountain Soul, that's game over. Because I think T1 just won't have the necessary damage to chew through. On the flip side, though, DK still have a Camille, still have a Ziggs, and they definitely are going to need to buy some Shred, right? Void Staff definitely needs to come through.
Yeah, there are people here, Kingen. Your whole team was on the bottom side of the map, and he is going to give up the red buff. And they're still, they're still on the bottom side.
They're going to keep pushing?
I don't think you're going to get...
Well, they won't. No. Oh, they still have the Baron powered recalls. Everything's fine. It's Moham showing off Barrel Skin there. Free
Double lock
now. Double lock it. Well, they are playing into pure dive, but you do get so much less value. The one thing this does allow you to do is have Moham go in and have Lucid like play more peel or Showmaker and aiming and still get coverage of the entire fight. But
also, I mean, Locket's just so strong. What else are you building? Let's be real.
I don't know.
He already had his other support item, which is War Mox. There aren't any other items in the game at the moment. No, I mean, I'm joking. But at the end of the day, it's somewhat
Lucid
true.
is just standing there menacingly.
You know what's interesting is Aiming's build. You know, he was trying to move towards the Zhonya's. He didn't finish it. He got his death cap first. Now he finished the Zhonya's, but he's really delaying his penetration. But it just doesn't matter because he's so incredibly fed alongside of Showmaker that now he just picks up the Blighting Jewel and will eventually have probably a Void Stab. Could go Crypt Bloom into this comp. I wouldn't be too against it, but if he's trying to really chunk through some of the Mountain Soul and double Mountain Dragon resistances that T1 will have, might want to get that Void Snap.
One of the big things is for either team is being able to gain access to the Baron, just because it will allow you to set up for the Elder. I think that, as we have seen, the Baron buff in this game, it's better for DK, but they had the really unfortunate fight immediately afterwards. For T1, it'll obviously help you push in, but both teams have such good ways of starting fights that Elder is basically the ultimate objective, because if you can guarantee a fight, then the buff that allows you to win basically any fight. If you played well, obviously going to be insanely high in value, as we are just setting up traps everywhere now. Kingen is just going to stand here, watch this bot lane push in, and it's really big that right now, if you look at the vision control, very heavily in favor of T1. Are currently sitting on control of the pit, although there is still a ward there, as Kingen still hiding in the fog, and they're trying, I imagine, to get as big of a wave here towards the bot side of the map as Zeus does know.
Here's the timing.
This is very, very dangerous, right? Because there is a Nocturne in this game. Kingen knows this as well, and yeah, he needs to run, and he will. But this does give the opportunity to DK to then retake control, as we can see, of the Baron pit, and hopefully set up for that, as Carrier really embodying the Bard with just walking in front of your enemies. This time he doesn't die, so that's a big one.
Yeah, not going to challenge the Corki this time. Good. To be fair, he didn't really challenge him last time. He was just around the Corki, and then Corki said, "You're going to die."
Well, I don't know. Maybe
he
was challenging, but he just wasn't. He wasn't winning.
No, not going to win against that guy, who, by the way, after using the Arm Guard, did finish his Zhonya's on Corki.
Yeah, IE for Showmaker now.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, the Zhonya's as well, and yet T1's just going to start it. They at the very least want to force a summoner, but DK actually holding off for now.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you do have a lot of control with the Bard and a lot of ways to kind of control space and control the timer. Showmaker just kind of going to start this one up, as we're just highlighting the fact that they have not cleared out the wards. So T1 know 100% that this has started.
Oh, now they know.
Yeah, and that's the delay. As Bard going to do Bard things, trying to get the Scuttle Crowd, but it does go to T1. King's still pushing in bot. Zeus does have his TP as well, so just a classic Camille angle here. But yeah, no kill on the Baron just yet.
What this does mean is that with that bot side inhibitor is going to respawn in 10 seconds. That's actually huge, because getting bot side prio makes it so much easier for DK to just get to that Dragon Pit without any issue. And now we're getting into the territory where I imagine that DK are actually going to pull off and focus on Elder. I think Elder is by far the better objective for these two teams as of right now. But look, Carrier has already made his way over and has actually set up a good amount of vision. Banana Brush control still here for T1. Sweepers are readily available for DK, so they should be able to retake control here. But this fight is going to decide the game, Valdez.
It should.
Everything's up.
This game has been very back and forth. I would agree. I think this one should decide it. There's another Tiki ward from Carrier that was placed around the pit. We'll see if DK can sweep that one out this time.
And there's no void stuff. Do note that here on aiming.
Yeah. That is going to be pretty big. As a bit of poke damage is coming in. He is using his satchel and also Solar Flare.
Oh, that's a big cooldown.
That felt like the perfect time for T1 to go in, but they don't really have control. I mean, down satchel and down Solar Flare could have been a nice angle, but
big thing here is that I think that Kingen continuously gets this shove as Moham has to flash. Kingen in the 1v1, obviously insanely strong, but he can't overpush because of this.
I mean, that is a very long dive, and he's got hook shots still. So now you're down Paranoia. They are going to get mid control, but now DK going to just start up the objective. See if T1 can answer this one. The last cone denied, and Kingen going to have to TP back into this fight. The poke not really doing much from Amy just yet.
The bot wave. Is he going to just push for the inhib?
I mean, he can always threaten an end. And potential for T1 to not get away if they stop the backs, but we do have Rumble's AOC. He is going to back now, as this is a very tense moment in this game.
Are we just flipping it?
We're just flipping it, I guess. I mean, Baker trying to find the angle, and it's just going to come down to Guma Yusi again! It's going to take down the objective, and they're TPing. They're trying to end the game. They say, enough with your Elder Dragon, but James
there's no way!
Stasis, and he might just be able to defend the base by himself. Down he will go, but T1, they still have Elder Dragon. Aiming's going to go down. Down will go Kingen eventually. His owner will take him out with the Paranoia, and that might just do it as T1 and Guma, they take the objective and they look to push mid.
This is 42 minutes in. No one that can clear waves is going to be alive anytime soon. Zeus can TP in. I'm pretty sure this is just going to be it. There's an Elder buff, and it goes to Guma of all people.
And it was a total flip. There were like 8 people around that Drake.
Oh, DK. That's going to be it for game 1, Velves. What a suitable ending to this first messy game.
Absolutely. This is exactly the way that game 1 had to end. After what we witnessed for 42.5 minutes, T1